What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Flask with Python tutorial video. In this video, what we're going to be talking about is the marriage of Flask with PayPal. So heading on over to developer.paypal.com, you'll be greeted with a page something like this if you're visiting at any time now or in the near future that you're watching or this video is posted. The homepage here is this v.0. So not too long ago, PayPal acquired a company called Braintree, which brings the total number of major ways that you can accept PayPal on a website to 3. So you can use something like v.0, which is the latest offering from Braintree. You could use the legacy PayPal API, or you could use the good old-fashioned IPN. That's what we're going to be using, but I feel like since they put this huge thing on here, I'll just tell you what it is anyways. The idea of Braintree is it's going to let you accept credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, Bitcoin, this kind of thing, okay? And the legacy PayPal API, basically both of these are kind of really the Braintree API. It's going to allow you to accept payments without actually looking like you're using PayPal. So it makes your company, your business, look like you actually have a payment processing segment, right? So you can kind of never break the immersion of your website, whereas right now, generally all you can do is throw a little banner maybe at the top of the PayPal checkout or something like that. Now, for us, me personally just wanted a nice simple way to integrate PayPal. I wanted to accept PayPal and credit cards. So the way that you can do that really simply is with the IPN. So on developer.paypal.com, sign up, make an account. This is separate from your PayPal account. Generally, if I recall right, you log in with your PayPal account, but you still need to sign up and set up some stuff. Once you're signed in, you might even get away with using your PayPal account. I might be totally wrong. Anyway, once you're signed up, go to your dashboard. When you're in your dashboard, you'll probably not have an app already created, so go ahead and create an application. From there, you'll head to the sandbox accounts and just kind of take note. You've got a business and a personal account here. Just note that they're there. They should be there by default. If not, go ahead and create the account, one for business, one for personal. The personal is the actual buyer, right? This is the person that's in theory going to buy your product, and then this is the business that's selling. So the sandbox is as it sounds. It's this nice little sandbox environment, which if you're not familiar, generally we use this term. It's like a nice secluded and safe area to do development. Okay, so the PayPal sandbox is actually pretty nifty. So if you head to sandbox.paypal.com, you should be greeted with a page that looks identical to PayPal, right? This looks just like PayPal, and you can log in and stuff like that, but you can only log in with sandbox accounts. So by that same token, if someone puts a button or a payment, whatever, on their website that actually goes to sandbox.paypal.com, you can log in with your sandbox account, play with Play Money, because these accounts are generally given about $10,000 in their account. This one has $94, so almost $9,600. So that's the idea of the sandbox. So you can develop and you can test with everything else working as it should, and then when you're ready to go live, you change sandbox.paypal.com in 2 locations, and you change the payer and payee, I guess. I don't know which one you would choose, the payer or payee, because payee is paying. I don't know. You change the business email anyways. We can have a philosophical debate about whether it's payer or payee. Anyway, I'm still wondering. Okay, so we'll move on. So let's just set that aside, and we're going to start building the Flask backend to do this. Now, just like all the other tutorials, there's a text-based version of this tutorial, and there's kind of a large degree of code here. So we're not going to spend a lot of time writing out all this code. It is a lot of code. Instead, I think we're going to take the code from the text-based version, and I'm going to just explain to you what that code is. If we typed all this out, it would be like a 2-hour tutorial, so that's really silly. So instead, I'll just save you from reading my lovely typo-infected paragraphs, and you can hear my words instead. So the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is, well, we need basically 3 URL paths that we need to define. The first path is going to be a purchase page. This is somewhere the user can go and make a purchase, okay? Second page, and arguably you could have a third and a fourth, but the second page is a success page. So when the user actually finalizes and completes the transaction, where do you want to send them when they're all done? There is alternatively a third type that's like the success, only this is the failure page. This is where the user canceled the transaction somewhere along the way. Generally, I just send them back to the home page. Screw them, right? Send them to Meat Spin or something. Anyway, yeah, that's a good idea. So you arguably could do that. Generally, I just send them to the home page, though. And then the final one is really the crux of all this, and this is your IPN handler. So the IPN handler is what is going to handle these IPN. IPN stands for Instant Payment Notification. If you've ever had an actual PayPal account and you receive payments, stuff like this, IPN is basically exactly what you get in your email. So when someone sends you a payment, if you refund a payment, if someone creates a payment plan or profile with you, if someone cancels that, if someone's late on their payments, stuff like that. So that's what the IPN does too, and you can direct those notifications to a specific URL, and then from there you can handle that, and you can also probably the biggest thing is actually verifying that it was indeed PayPal that sent you this information. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we'll go ahead and go to the our home app directory, and we'll go into our init.py file. And at the top of this file, we are going to need to make a couple of imports. Might as well make them while we're here. The two major imports are going to be from WorkZerg. We're going to need to import these immutable dictionary, and then we also want to import requests. I don't see that we're already importing requests, so I'm just going to copy and paste in there. Again, the text version of this tutorial in the description, so go there and you can probably find this. Otherwise, type it out if you want. We're going to use immutable ordered dict. We'll talk about that when we get there, actually. But just import, bring that in. And basically, if you know, dictionaries in Python are not ordered. Okay, so an immutable ordered dictionary means we can't change it, and it is ordered. Okay, and then requests to make requests. So now we're going to go to our typical development zone, which is near Jinjaman. And we're going to start throwing in some stuff. Again, I'm going to take this from the text-based version of this tutorial and paste. This is the success page. This is the path to it. We need to still create success.html, but we'll get there. Basically, this is just where the user is going to go when they complete the transaction. So now we'll go into templates, and we need a success.html. So new, and we'll call this success.html. Take a sip of water. And we'll copy that information in. Boom, no problem. We sent that in. I'll close out of this for now. And then we're going to, let's go ahead and make the other one. I kind of didn't order it this way, or I thought I didn't. Let's see, we had the success, and then I wanted to have the purchase page. Where's my purchase page? There it is. Okay, so we've got success, and this is for the actual purchase page. And this one loads a subscribe.html, so let's go ahead and make that. This is going to be a subscription button. And this code will require a little more explanation. So the success page was just simple stuff. You should really know everything that's going on there. Subscribe page is a little different. Okay, so what's happening in our subscribe page is the following. First, we're looking to see if the user's logged in. If they're not logged in, they have to log in so we can gather some user information on them. That way, when they pay, we know who is paying. So we ask if they're logged in. If they're not, we just slap in a little message that says, hey, you need to be logged in order to make a subscription. Now, we have a form here, and the form has an action. We're calling it to PayPal. The action is to go and send this data to sandbox.paypal.com CGI bin web square, and it posts this information. Subsequently, it posts all this information. So most of this information is information I've taken directly from PayPal. There's a PayPal API page that has all of the variables that you need here. You can also generate a button and then view the HTML for that button and just take all that, because basically this is to create your own button, because the PayPal buttons are ugly. They look pretty unprofessional. They don't ever like go seamlessly with a website. So this is our way of making our own button. So most of these values are values that are just coming straight from PayPal's API that explains all of these values. Now, even the custom is something you can send in custom to PayPal. So the value for that custom value there for us is just going to be that session username. Otherwise, the only other really important thing here is $10, okay? And then this is the return. So this is the page that they'll go to on success. This is the page that they go to on failure. And this notify URL actually is probably the most important. This tells PayPal where to notify about these instant payment notifications. Finally, this is just a subscribe submit button. This is something that the user can actually click. This is the only thing that's not hidden about all this entire form and input. So, so when we go live, the things that we would change would be this. This is sandbox.paypal.com. That would be changed to just PayPal. We would change this email to our email, so we get the money for real, not our Sandbox account. And really everything else stays the same. The one thing I would say is when you do these little hidden inputs, there are ways for people to do this entire form but change this number to a penny. They can do that, so you always want to check how much that person actually paid you, because they can change that number and that's no good. Okay, so you should be okay with that now, and that shouldn't be too much more confusing. There is an API somewhere that gives off like all of these values and the different ones that you can use. I don't have a link to that right now, but I'll put a link to that in the text-based tutorial if and when I find it. I've seen it at one point long ago. Generally, when I want to make a button, though, I just go to PayPal, generate a button, and you can view the HTML for that button, and it looks pretty much just like this, and then I kind of modify the HTML from there. But there is an API somewhere with all these little secret values and what they mean. Because like A3, how would you have any idea that meant like how much the user is going to pay? Anyway, so that's our subscribe, and now we're going to get to the IPN part. So the IPN actually doesn't have its own template. It doesn't need one. So we're done with that for now. And let's take the IPN code. So I'm going to copy and paste this IPN function. It's actually quite a bit of code, but a lot of it is logging and exception handling and stuff like that. So it's actually not as challenging as it may appear. So paste. Okay, so here's our IPN function. Simple enough. It's got an app-root IPN. The only method we're accepting here is post. And what's happening here is first we have an empty arg. Then we're taking the we're just setting the request parameter storage class as an immutable ordered dict. The reason why we do that is because dictionaries are not ordered, and what happens, and the way this works, is we get a post from hopefully PayPal, but we don't know who is making the post. We get a post of all of this kind of data, right? It's the transaction ID, the payer email, the date, the amount, the gross, all this stuff. We get this data, but right now we don't know who it came from. Okay, so we get all this data, and we take that data, we retain the order of that data, and then what we do is we build our own request, and we start with our validating URL. So this will be the second location for the sandbox.paypal switch that you'll need to make before you go live. Validate URL, and then we add our arguments to that URL. So basically, we get this request, we get all this data, okay? We take that data, and we throw it right back at PayPal, and we're like, hey, did you just send this to us? And then PayPal will respond and say either invalid or verified, okay? So if they respond and they say, yep, that was us, then we're like, okay, great, thanks. And we go along. Now, just because it came from PayPal does not mean that that data is safe, secure, or accurate. Okay, things can still be modified. So when we go and we look at things could be changed, like the username, right? Remember, that was a custom value we sent. We chose that value. And some other stuff can be changed, like the transaction ID. That's coming directly from PayPal, right? So that's almost certain to be legit, whatever that is. But a lot of this stuff can be changed. And for a great example would be the payment gross. The user, someone who's not just your regular user, can go in and they can modify the request that they're about to make, and they could say they're going to pay you a penny, okay? And if your program doesn't check to make sure the gross payment was not actually a value that you were supposed to get, PayPal doesn't have any way to protect you against that. So keep that in mind. So you'll want to check the payment gross and probably check the fee too. Just make sure no funny business was played there. All this information is supplied by the IPN. We're grabbing our own date. The IPN will send you a date or like a time, but I go off server time, so I'm going to use the server time. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind. See, we're using thwart everywhere. I just anytime, if you don't remember, thwart is an escape string. Okay, so thwart is not going to stop you from ever getting hacked, but it's always a good idea to go ahead and escape everything you put into your database that you allowed a user to generate in any way. Okay, users cannot be trusted. They will try to break your stuff. So just every time you put stuff into a database, unless it's like a totally back-end operation, you should be escaping it. So if it's verified, great, we grab this data. If we, for whatever reason, that operation goes south, we're going to go ahead and open up in the temporary directory an ipnout.txt file. We're going to save this little data string to the file, write it, cool, we're done. Now, if this operation is fine, we're going to go ahead and open up the ipnout. We're going to say that was a successful IPN ping. So we're going to write success to that file. We're going to write the data, good to go. Finally, we're going to go ahead and establish a connection to our database. We're going to insert into our IPN table, which doesn't exist yet. We'll make it. We're going to insert all of this data that we just grabbed. The Unix, the payment date, the username, the last name, payment gross, blah, blah, blah. You get a bunch of information. And hopefully I'll remember, we'll check the IPnout text file, and you'll see how much information comes. It's a lot of info. So we insert that, commit, close, and collect the garbage. Now this else is corresponding to any other return other than verified. Okay, so if that's the case, then we return failure. Just notice that the string is slightly different. So failure, success, error with the IPN data. Just make it something unique-ish so you know what you're doing. You could get official with your logging too. There is an actual logging module. This is just meant to be a really short, just if something doesn't log, we want to be able to go check the log file and see what's going on. So that's everything. Okay, so again, what's going to happen? Someone's going to go to the, well, actually, let's go ahead and go through the process, and we'll talk our way through what's happening in the code and what's happening to the user. So we've done that. We've got the init.py, cool. I'm going to close that for now. We'll probably have to open it back up unless everything goes really well. Oh, the other thing we need to do is we need to go into MySQL, and we need to make that IPN table. So let's go ahead and pop into MySQL. To do that, it's MySQL --user equals root -p. Enter your password for the database. And once you're in, use Python programming or whatever if you chose a different name for your database. What we want to do is we want to create this new table IPN. Again, this is a pretty long query. We have a lot of columns, so I'm just going to copy and paste the query that is from the text-based version of this tutorial. So we're creating the table IPN. We're tracking the Unix, time, the payment date, blah 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 blah. You could have the auto increment ID if you wanted. I really don't see any point to that because you're going to have a unique transaction ID that PayPal generates for you. So if you want to do the whole, some people are really anal about that first column. It has to be that that auto incrementing key. So if you want to do that, go for it, but I think it's a waste. Okay, so we ran that query. Cool. Let's go ahead and describe IPN just to make sure the table looks like what we expected. Sure enough, no problem. That looks good. So we're done in MySQL. Well, we'll leave MySQL up. I don't think we have to actually do anything else. No, we need to restart Apache. So we'll do that. And now we're probably good to go unless our website doesn't load for whatever reason. So let's load up our website. Looks good. I think our page was purchase. So we'll head to purchase, right? We need to be logged in to subscribe. We're not logged in. Let's go ahead and log in. Well, hello there. Okay, heading back to purchase. Awesome, we're logged in. Let's subscribe. Wait for it. Okay, so right now it's putting in my actual PayPal email, so we don't want that. So we're going to log into the Harrison-buyer. So we are on sandbox.paypal.com. So use your Sandbox PayPal. If you tried to use your real PayPal, it wouldn't work anyways. And then put in whatever your password was. If you forgot what your password was, you can go to the Sandbox. Let's see if I can get there if I'm not kicked out already. You go to their profile. Let's see if it, nope, didn't kick me out. Awesome. So you can go there, and if you forgot the password, just go to change password, and you just change the password. It does not matter. So just keep that in mind. So let's move that aside now. Okay, so we're good to go. We're going to log in. We got this subscription, stuff like that. Cool. Agree and pay. Good. Okay, so now we can return to the test facilitator store. And great, it says, thanks for your purchase. All right, so, and it gives us this nice auth token that you could use should you want to use the auth token. Now, let us pull back into our database and use Python programming. And let's see if this worked. Okay, cool. So our IPN did work. We got the data here. Let's see if I can fit it on one screen. Almost. So here's our Unix. This is our payment date. This is the username of the purchase. Last name was buyer. The gross was $10. Fees 59 cents. Payment net $9.41. Payment complete. That user had the money. It wasn't an e-check or some other nonsense. Awesome. Okay. So we can quit out of here. And finally, before we bring this to a possible close, we are going to head to our temporary directory. TMP. IPN out. Let's open that up. And these are probably from before. I'm going to move these aside for us. And this is basically all the information that gets sent to you. So you'll notice that we didn't take all of the data. Okay, so you've got transaction type, subscriber sign up. You've got subscriber ID. You've got their last name, their resident country. I forget what MC and currency. There's two major ones. One is how much money in their currency versus how much money in your currency you actually got. And whichever one I'm using is the right one. So I remember I had to look that up. But you get their payer status. You get this information here. I think we already left the token page though. Let's run this one more time and check that token there. Then you got payer status. They're verified. Blah 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 blah. And you get all this information, right? You get the receiver information, what period. You get a lot of information that kind of doesn't totally matter. But obviously, if you're selling like a lot of store items, you'd track like the item number, stuff like that. And here's the subscriber date that they also give you. You get the idea. This is all the information the IPN sends you back. So you can use any of this information that you want. But you definitely want to pay attention to the amount. So there you go. Now, let's clear the IPN out. Let's save that. Because I think you'll actually get two. You'll get two things from the IPN. One of them is going to result in a failure, and I'll explain why in our case that's resulting in a failure. So let's go back. Let's go to make a purchase. You can do this a billion times if you want. It really does not matter. So we'll subscribe again, and let me log into this payers account. And we'll agree and pay. I'll actually show you another thing too that's fairly important. Okay, returning to the store now. Let's refresh here. Okay, so the IPN out is updated. No, we got just success. Maybe because it's not a new profile. Generally what's going to happen is you'll probably wind up with two. One's going to say success, one's going to say failure. And the reason why it's going to happen is the IPN is going to notify you for two things that occur. One is a new automatic payment profile is set up, but that might not be happening because there might not be a new automatic profile, possibly. I'm not sure. And then another one is the actual payment. And if you look at what we're requiring to grab from that dictionary, we're requiring some things that would not be supplied here, right? So this try is going to fail and you'll get an error with IPN data because something like, payment net won't be there because it's just saying, hey, we established a new payment profile. Okay, so that'll be triggered and that'll return an error. And eventually you're just going to turn off this anyways. But just keep that in mind if you see that error. I'm actually kind of surprised we're not seeing that error because it should be there. Because in theory we should have gotten two. Let's try it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we got a success, an error, and a success apparently. But you should see that when we go over here into our database where it really I put the wrong password. Use Python programming. Now we should have two columns because of the previous one, right? Or two rows rather. That we're storing the information right. Again, depending on what you're trying to do with the API, I guess things are going to be a little different. Now, the last thing I want to show you guys is fairly important if you ever find yourself in a problem. Let me change this. Let me see if I can just do it via the sandbox rather than my actual PayPal account. I've logged into the wrong PayPal account. Because you'll be on, in theory, maybe a business account. And let me do facilitator. And then log in. Hopefully, if this gets me in, I'll bring it back on the page. I just didn't want to bring up something I didn't want to show. Okay, so this is the, not quite, it looks like they haven't really updated. And because they haven't updated, maybe I won't be able to show you what I'm hoping to show you. Generally, you'd go to my profile and then you'd actually on the updated version, it'll be my profile and then settings, and then you'll go to my selling tools, but this version isn't quite updated with the most current version of actual PayPal. Anyway, you'll come to this page and you should come down to instant payment notifications, and you can come into update, and you may need to turn this on, but this will only stop you from getting the IPNs to this URL inside the website. But I'm like 95% certain, as long as it's in that form that says what the IPN notification URL is, it's still going to notify to that URL. So just keep that in mind. Now, so there's that. You might want to turn that on. But really what's interesting is this IPN history page. So you come here, let's say for whatever reason you push your thing live, and for whatever reason maybe your database gets corrupted and you've got to reload a backup or something, okay? And your backup is missing the last 24 hours of IPN data. What you can do is you can come here and you can load the last 24 hours, 5 days, or the last 14 days of IPN information. You can come here and then you can say, okay, what I want to do is, maybe you don't care about the automatic profiles. Like this is basically an IPN notification sent about the like basically if it doesn't have a transaction ID, it means someone canceled, someone started a new profile, something like that. Okay, so you'd come through maybe, and maybe even if it was the last 24 hours and you wanted everything, you could come through here and you could click this. Oh, I thought we could, yeah, okay, click that, and you can say resend. Okay, so this is going to resend all of that IPN information. Now it says you can only display up to 1,000, but yeah, you could go like pages, I think, or something. Anyway, so if something like that ever happened to you and you needed some way to re-push these IPN notifications, you totally can. Okay, so that's how you would do it. Now these can take a little bit. Like this might take 5 minutes before it even starts updating. I'll redo this just in case. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit, but once it starts coming in, it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just because it doesn't update immediately, don't like start freaking out. It'll come. So I think that's really all I wanted to show you guys as far as the IPN was concerned. There's a lot of like little stuff, obviously. Don't forget that when you go live, basically you need to change that sandbox.paypal.com, sandbox, 2 sandboxes, 1 email address. Change those and you're basically good to go. The other thing you would do is you would truncate this table. So yeah, I'm surprised we still don't have them yet. I'm going to truncate it and then we're going to get all the IPN stuff. But for example, like, so you're developing, and what you would do is you would truncate. I always type. I'm kind of bad when I type MySQL right into console, so sorry I don't capitalize all the time. But you would truncate table IPN, okay? And what that's going to do is it'll stop that table. Okay, so now if we go to, it'll just empties it out. There's truncate and then there's delete all. Delete all, I think, resets like any special index. So like if you did have a self or auto incrementing key, that would restart. Whereas if you truncate, you're gonna not have. I think it'll start back where it left off. I might have them flipped or something, but if that matters, look into it. I'm so surprised we're not getting these IPNs resent. Maybe it's because I selected so many. They will come through though. I've been on the receiving end of waiting for these resends to come through, but they do. Okay, so anyways, that's it for now. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, whatever, feel free to leave them below. Obviously, from here, you have to do your own handling. So, like for example, on in the init, basically, as soon as you're content with, let's go to IPN. When you're content with this data and you check to make sure they paid what they were supposed to pay, and if you have multiple item IDs, you have that too. And if those two things line up as they're supposed to, here is where you might issue some updates. Maybe you start printing out a shipping label if you're a shipping company or something like that. Or if it's a subscription service, here's where you would run an upgrade command right now. Upgrade that user. That way they're upgraded almost immediately. Okay. So stuff like that. So anyways, that's it for now. If, again, questions, comments, leave them below. Otherwise, as always, thanks for watching.